Welcome to our Love Your Lower Back Somatic Strength sequence. I'm here with the great Mary Richards. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Lizzie.
So, Mary has designed this sequence for us today. And if you love this sequence, which I know you will, I can suggest two courses from Lassiter.yoga. Here's the website, Lassiter.yoga. Number one is called Somatic Strength, and the other one is called Love Your Lower Back. Mary, give us a introduction. What do you mean when you teach somatic strength?
I mean, doing movements that challenge our bodies intentionally with our awareness directed toward the sensations of work.
Okay, and why is functional movement so important in your teaching? Last question before we start.
Because I think about asana in the context of our life. And asana, in my view, its purpose isn't just to be a form of active meditation, but it's also, I believe, intended to make it easier to sit, stand, walk, run, jump, bend over, etc. And in and of itself, it doesn't necessarily develop our physical resilience. And so when we combine asana with intentional, focused, sensory driven strength training, using our body weight and sometimes resistance bands, it really turns the volume up for our motor planning, processing, and coordination. And that makes life easier.
So good. Okay, I'm ready. Let me give the website one more time. It's www.lassiter.yoga, and you're going to click through and look at somatic strength and love your lower back. So I'm going to move to the mat. Let me pin myself so I stay big, and Mary is here with us. So, Mary, what's the first pose in the sequence?
So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to lie down on our mat on the back body, and we're going to do a type of heel sliding to practice abdominal bracing. Okay. And because we want to learn how to brace our bellies so that we can stabilize ourselves when we encounter perhaps more movement energy than we were anticipating.
Okay.
So we start on the back body, knees bent comfortably for you. And you may need to work over to the side of your mat a bit so that you're on a slick surface.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're then just going to slide one heel away from us and then slide the heel back
Mm-hmm.
while maintaining a curve, the natural curve for you in your low back, and holding your belly button down into your spine. If you think of your belly button kind of like a vortex of energy, I want you to think about pulling the belly button down, down, down into the spine and the energy kind of flowing down through the navel. And you're just going to slide the heel up toward the bum and then slide the heel away from the bum. And I like to do about 10 or 15 on each side.
So, if I understood correctly, when you say normal curves, that means there's a slight space behind my lumbar and that I'm not tucking my tailbone?
That's correct. You
Okay.
ideally are able to slide your fingers, maybe even your whole hand, depending on how juicy your gluteus maximus is, under your low back. And there's
Mm-hmm.
no tucking. Your pelvis is neutral. So you're resting on the center of your sacrum and you're keeping your pelvis and your rib cage and shoulders and head stable while you slide your heel toward your bum and away from your bum.
Okay, I'm going to do three more on each side. And then I'm going to say, what's next?
And do you notice the sensation though, Lizzie, as you engage with this movement? How do you
Yeah.
feel in your belly space?
Yeah, everything feels very held and pulled
Yes.
together. and I like moving slowly. I like what you said. If I wasn't filming, maybe I would move all the way to the side and let my foot really slide on the floor so it was a bit more slippery.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels good. It feels deceptively simple.
Yes, that's one of my favorite things
Yeah.
because we take so much of our movement for granted, and especially as we become more fluent in asana, we tend to just sort of go through the motions, right? And
Yeah.
this is the thing, as someone who has been, as an NCAA athlete, and I'm a hardcore weightlifter, and you can eat reps, you can gobble reps and do things really fast, but that makes it much harder for the body to learn.
Yeah.
And we also want to increase our time under tension.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so increase the length of time that we're working and pay attention to where in the movement arc we might be dropping the ball, where there
Mm-hmm.
are gaps.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to pull you up because I think it's nice to see you. I'm going to do this. And so we can see both of us as we're going. Tell me what's next, Mary.
So next we're going to do the supine pelvic tuck and tilt. So
Okay.
like doing cat-cow, but you're on your back body with your knees bent. And the reason why we're starting on the back body is we're reducing our resistance with gravity so that we can really tune into our body sensations and how the movement is arising within us. So you're resting comfortably on your back body, arms long by the sides, feet placed comfortably for you. Feet are glued to the mat. Now you can't use your legs, okay? Your legs are just there.
Yeah.
And what I want you to do is I want you to initiate tucking your tailbone from your tailbone. So no pushing with your legs.
Okay.
And then as you inhale, think about rolling across the length of your sacrum onto the tip of your tailbone. And everything that's driving this movement is between the tailbone and the pubic bone. So think about initiating the movement from the root of the body or the pelvic floor.
And what is this beneficial for? Why do you like this movement for our love your lower back sequence?
Well, first of all, a lot of the time when we do any sort of tucking and tilting, we again just sort of tuck and tilt and we kind of drop into the extension if you're on all fours, and then we push through the low back to come into the scared cat position, the flexion position. And now we're really initiating this movement from the pelvic floor itself. And the pelvic floor is an integral part of your low back health.
Mm.
And oftentimes there is a disconnect, especially if you've, carried pregnancy to term and had any sort of, vaginal trauma or an enlarged prostate, etc., that disrupts the muscle activation patterns of the pelvic floor.
Mm.
And we forget about it. And so this is a very effective way to bring the pelvic floor into our movement awareness.
Mm. Okay, this feels great. What's next?
So now we start turning up the volume, okay? So you're going to roll over onto your side and then come on into the forearm plank position.
Oh, Mary Richards, if you're studying with her for the first time, is famous for her love of plank. Do you want the hands together or separate?
I'd like you to place your elbows shoulder width apart, maybe even a little wider, and make fists with your hands and press the little finger sides of the wrists down into the mat. And then walk your knees back from your hips until you feel basically all of the muscles of your body turn on. And you can
Mm-hmm.
keep walking your knees back and curl your toes under and push through your heels until your legs are straight. It's up to you.
Mm.
You modify how much load you're going to carry. So here we are, we're in the forearm plank position. I want you to hold your organs up into your body. So think about pulling the belly button up into the spine.
Mm-hmm.
Push through your heels, even if your knees are on the mat. Take a little bit more weight toward the little toe sides of the feet. And now set your dominant elbow slightly forward of your other elbow. Just
Oh,
slide it forward. Try not to pull the bum up toward the ceiling. You're walking a plank. And now we just stay here for 5 minutes.
I was just going to ask, what is your timing recommendation when we're moving through this? Because there's a companion PDF you're going to find when you look at the notes below here. You can download it. When you print this out and you're doing this on your own, is it 30 seconds on each side? What's your timing, Mary?
So ideally, we want to build up. Let's not think about time. Okay, let's
Okay.
stay in the somatic space. All right,
Okay.
because time is an intellectual construct. It's not that it's not useful, but we're working at the pace of the body, not of the brain. Okay, so let's instead aim for 10 to 16 rounds of breath.
Okay, I'm going to do that for the second side now. My
Okay.
non-dominant, my left wrist is fist is now in front. So I'm going to go to
Yes.
10 breaths.
So we start non-dominant side and then dominant side. And then we'll go back to the non-dominant side. And I want you to try and hold the body position with the elbows asymmetrically placed. You're aiming for 16 rounds of breath. That's the direction you're moving in. But you may be at 3 rounds, you may be at 8 rounds, and you may be wondering, how do I tell? When you start to really shake, try to hold on. Shaking isn't a bad thing, okay? It just means you're getting tired, and it also means the body is developing resilience. You increase load to a place where your body is challenged to maintain its position. So stay there for another round of breath or 2.
Okay.
So
So
again,
you wanted what? So if I'm right-handed, you want us to do this forward first, the right hand forward first?
yes.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then the left hand forward, and then another one of the right hand forward?
Correct.
Okay.
Did you now you've done both sides, Lizzie?
Yes.
Did you notice which side was easier for you?
You know, it's hard for me to tell. I feel like actually with the left hand forward, it was easier, the non-dominant.
Yes, yes. So the reason why now this time, this is your 3rd time, so you're going to put your right elbow forward. The reason why I want you to put your dominant elbow forward first and last is because we all develop a functional scoliotic overlay toward our non-dominant side. We all tend to be shorter on our non-dominant side because we're reaching stretched out on our dominant side. And then our non-dominant side tends to be contracted a bit more. So it's actually a little stronger in the obliques.
Interesting. Okay. I'm sweating now. What's next, Mary?
Yeah, it gets your attention. But see, we're doing this again to work on stabilizing the trunk rotators as well as the muscle and fascial tissue that governs the relationship between the shoulders and the hips. See, we want to be able to stabilize our lumbar curve in whatever position we place it. Okay. Yeah. So now we want to move down the body a bit. So you're still on your belly. And we're going to do a cobra pose, a baby cobra pose. So you're going to come up onto your forearms, and the more directly you place your elbows under your shoulders, the more difficult this is going to be. So you might want to set your elbows farther forward.
Okay.
You find what works for you. So you come up onto your forearms and you're in this baby cobra pose. And ideally, you don't feel anything in your low back. except maybe a
Mm.
little bit of muscle activation. Your legs are separated comfortably for you, and you're not tucking your tailbone. Just
Yeah.
leave your pelvis alone.
Yeah.
And now curl the heels up towards your bum. And just now I want you to just take your feet and legs down to one side and then to the other. It's like you're wagging your tail, and your
It's
pelvis is rolling with your feet, your legs, your thighs.
just weird, Mary.
It
What's
is a
going
little,
on?
so here now, so a lot of folks, when they have low back pain, they also have SI joint dysfunction, and twisting can be really touchy.
Hmm.
So you're mobilizing those joints safely. And can you feel, Lizzie, how your side waist is also working to shape the movement?
Yes, and I'm feeling a very pleasant kind of massage on my quadricep, the thigh muscles in the front.
Yes, yes. And this is so important, especially for yoga people, because we tend to overstretch the backs of the legs and understretch the fronts of the legs. And this applies to non-yoga people as well. One of the contributing factors to low back pain is we're too tight in the front thighs.
Yep.
And so we're challenging the muscles we just worked in the derotational plank, but
Hmm.
we're also adding the niceness, if you will, of the quadricep. It's a gentle stretch for your hip flexors and a gentle massage for those quads.
Yeah. And even kind of this position, I'm starting to think more and more that lying on the belly and lifting up in any capacity, even I could be reading a magazine or whatever it is, that this is really healthy for us because we're doing so much sitting and rounding forward. I'm seeing it in
Yes.
my own body, in my friends' bodies. It's like we're all becoming so much. And so any amount of passive or active back bending seems really healthy for the back.
Oh, it absolutely is. You're spot on, Lizzie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Spot on. And if you watch
Yeah.
little kids will often, you know, put themselves down on the floor with their picture books, and
Hmm.
they're in a baby
Yeah.
cobra.
I
Just for
just
the
saw, I was in the swimming pool and I saw three little 10-year-old girls lying on a big blanket on their bellies, eating their French fries like that. And it was so sweet. And I thought, yeah, that's like what a position that we all need more of. Okay, what's
yes.
next in the
So
sequence?
now we're going to take our time and transition to standing. And you're going to
Hmm.
need a block. And you may need to be near a wall if you're tentative with your balance.
Okay.
So please, if you need balance support, you can put your hands on the back of a chair or a tabletop or on the wall.
Okay.
And I want you to just place the block down on its fat, flat side. So Shavasana or baby bear block. And pick a leg. You may have had knee reconstruction or hip intervention, or let's say you have a cranky SI joint. I
Hmm.
want you to pick that leg and you're going to step your foot onto the block. And
Oh,
that's exactly what you're going to do, Lizzie, is you're going to put one foot on the block and then you're just going to push down into that block leg and straighten the leg.
okay.
It's You can do this on let's say you don't have yoga blocks. You can do this on a step,
Hmm.
or if you have, Tolstoy's Why Not in You, you have War and Peace, you can do that, whatever it is.
So, or
And
the first step of the stairs
And you
kind of a
don't need to
thing.
take your leg back behind you. You can just take it right next to the block. And you're just going to do this about 10 to 12 times each side. If you're feeling saucy, maybe you want to do 20. But the thing is, I want you to actually really push down into the block and feel yourself pulling up, and then feel
Hmm.
yourself pulling down. And
Mm-hmm.
just notice how the pressure changes in that foot on the block. How
Mm-hmm.
much do you roll out onto the little toe side of the foot, or how much do you roll into the big toe side of the foot? And I want you to think about keeping the pressure between the second and third toes.
And tell me as I switch sides, what is this doing for our lower back? What's the connection?
So part and parcel of low back function is hip function.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've started today working around the low back, right? We started with the ab bracing while moving the heels away from us and toward us. And then we started doing the supine cat-cow from the pelvic floor. And then we moved
Mm-hmm.
into bigger movements with the derotational plank and the cobra with the waving tail. And now here we are, we're standing up with gravity, and we're lifting and lowering the body through the hip axis, AXIS,
Mm-hmm.
which is the primary movement axis of the body. And in order to reduce low back pain and improve low back function, we have to have really strong, stable hips. And that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah, I'm feeling it all here, the outer hip.
Yeah, in the riverbanks, right? As Mr. Iyengar referred to the sides of the body, the riverbanks. So in my parlance, the gluteus medius. And because we have to be able to manage the weight of the pelvis when we shift our weight from leg to leg every time we take a step.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm gonna do
And I
5 more on this side.
And
And
I
then
love to do lots of these. Part of it is because I have a titanium right hip.
mm-hmm.
So I will stop at the bottom of the stairs in my house, for instance, and I will just do this on my right leg before I continue up the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
Training the lateral stabilization subsystem, which is what we're doing right now,
Mm-hmm.
is really important for balance.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Now I'm nice to you. Now we're going to come see, we've done all of this dynamic movement now for the hips. So now we're going to come into the supine figure 4 pose, or
Okay.
Sukhyanandarasana. Because now we want to stretch it out. Because one of the things a lot of folks will do with low back pain is they think, oh, I need to do child's pose and I need to do pigeon pose and all of these things. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying don't do those things, but I'm saying do this sort of stuff first.
Uh-huh. So first strengthen before you stretch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because your low back doesn't hurt um, just because it's tight. It hurts because it's weak.
Yeah, this is huge. I really think, as we all know, that we need more movement, more steps in a day, for example, but we also need more strength to kind
Oh
of
my
hold
gosh.
ourselves. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's strength training, especially if we're fortunate enough to age,
Mm,
is the fountain of life.
yeah. And I have the feeling when I look at people that it's a lot of people who are kind of not living in their bodies anymore. Like they're
Yeah.
like it's almost like they're not as we age, we're letting go of certain movement types and certain a kind of certain wholeness in our ability to inhabit the physical body. Do you know what I mean, Mary?
I do, Lizzie, and I've been thinking about this a lot because I just turned 55
Mm,
on July 21st. And, you know, and as you know, my menopause transition has been very dramatic.
yeah. Yes.
You'd think I'm a Leo,
Yeah.
right? And one of the things that happens for a lot of us as we age is, we start to be very aware that we're losing our looks.
Hmm.
And I have this idea developing, and I'm sure we'll talk about the somatic woman, the course that we're doing beyond menopause, that when we start to lose our looks, we actually disassociate more from our bodies because we
Mhm.
don't enjoy what we see.
Yes.
And I actually, for me, and I'm not saying this is everyone, okay? But I think for me, as I've gotten older, I appreciate my body more because I'm still here.
Mhm.
And so I really like to do strength work, especially to do it very slowly and deliberately with this somatic experience of how it feels to move and to challenge myself at the forefront of my attention
Mhm.
because it's changed so much.
Mm.
I find learning about the changes to be so empowering.
Mhm. Yeah, I like that. I see a lot of my body practices like asana, somatic strength work, and exercise even as like just a way of continuing to inhabit my whole body. But like the body that's actually here today, not the body I had 20 years ago, but like, okay, when I do these planks, it's like, okay, I'm it's almost like if there was a light inside of me, I feel it's lighting up the entire body when I do that, as opposed to most of the time I walk around and only 60% of my body is lit up from the inside or something. It's like I'm not going to. I also feel that from the sauna. Like when I do a sauna, then I feel like everything is lit up, all the blood vessels, you know?
I totally get it, Lizzie. And I love how you described it as you feel that there's this light inside of you because there is,
Yeah.
right? There is the prana with the big P. And so the more we move
Hmm.
and really delve into the sensory as well as the emotional feelings of movement, I believe the closer we get to liberation.
Oh, yes. Okay. How many more movements do we have today in this
Okay,
sequence?
so we have three more and then a
Okay.
restorative. So
Yes.
you're perfectly positioned for the next movement because now we're going to do a type of Bharadvajasana or simple
Hmm.
seated twist. So you may need, to sit up on your block or a bolster, depending on your low back situation. You may want to put your bum up a little bit, but we're going to take our legs into the zigzag position.
Hmm.
And I want you to have your right leg to be the front leg.
Hmm.
Okay. And I'll explain why in a moment, my thinking behind it. And then what I want you to do is, we're typically, when we think about Bharadvajasana, we think about sitting up straight. I don't want you to do that. I want you to lean over your right leg a bit and put some weight into that right side of the bum and keep your left glute super heavy and your left thigh bone super heavy. So your left thigh bone is actually what's holding you back. But then I want you to walk your hands onto the floor in front of your right knee and then start to walk your hands toward the right side and around you. And think about
Yeah.
swinging your left buttock over and around the head of that anchored left thigh bone. Notice I'm saying
Mm.
thigh bone, not sitting bone.
Yeah, my left sitting bone, the back one, is completely lifted off the floor. Yeah.
Exactly. And so you're laid out a bit.
Hmm.
And now, if you're willing, Lizzie, would you describe some of the sensations that you're aware of?
It's all through my side body, especially the left side body, all here
Uh-huh.
between the ribs, next to the spine, a sense of, and then on the right side in the front, um, just a sense of really pleasant stretch.
Great. And what about the front of your back hip, your left hip?
Here, no, I don't feel anything.
Okay, because some folks, if their hip flexors and quads are tight, they'll also get a really nice stretch through the front of the hip and thigh.
Mm.
See, right, the reason why I like to twist to the right first is because of the liver. So your
Okay.
liver occupies the upper right side of your belly space. It's the largest organ inside your body, and I want to squeeze it.
And what about the length here? Are you again doing kind of 8 breaths? What's your thinking?
Yeah, I think we kind of, I want your felt sense to drive you. We tend to, I believe, really count or mark time in twists. And I'd like you to twist until the sensation recedes from your attention and you feel contentless. And I would say on average, knowing that that's just an average, that's about 8 to 10 rounds of breath. And notice you're not sitting up, so you've got the lion's share of the weight is in your front hip and thigh, but you're keeping the back thigh bone heavy and rotating the pelvis around it, rotating the rib cage around. And you can bend your elbows a little bit. In fact, sometimes, Lizzie, I'll come all the way down onto my forearms.
So I'm going to say maybe 2 or 3 more breaths. Tell us, Mary, why you like twisting for healthy aging.
Because we want to preserve our ability to rotate. So we tend to become less rotationally competent as we age. In my opinion, we under challenge, under train the oblique abdominals, the gluteus medius, the big muscles that form the sides of the body. And you can see it in older drivers. They have difficulty looking over their shoulder. And so they can barely turn their head, and then they try to turn the whole body, but the body gets stuck too. So we need to preserve our ability to turn so that we can take in information around us.
It's not just older drivers, Mary. I mean, I don't consider 40 older yet. I'm 41. My 40-year-old friends, I'm noticing stiffening with a lot of forward head and stiffening of the neck and shoulders to where they're starting to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Scary. Really scary.
Yeah. And like the way we just did Vajrasana by rotating the pelvis over and around the heads of the thigh bones, that's hugely important for hip health, because one of the first things that we lose when our hips get stiffer is we lose the ability to rotate the thigh bones. And we need that rotation ability over and around the heads of the thigh bones so that we don't put too much torque in our sacroiliac joints.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we want to bring it back to the middle. So you're going to come down onto your back body and your knees are bent. And I want you to bring your knees up towards your chest. I like to do this one at a time, but it's up to you. And then I want you to place your hands on your thighs, just comfortably on your thighs. And so now push your legs away from you while you try to pull them in.
Oh, yes. This is shocking. It's like, it looks like nothing. I hope those of you who are watching are actually lying down and trying this, because it's like, it looks like nothing, but it's immediate sweating, like so much fire being released.
Yeah. Now hold this for about 3 rounds of breath and then relax, bend your elbows and relax. And I want you to do this 2 or 3 more times. So you're actively pushing your thighs away from you as you actively try to pull your thighs into you. We're creating dynamic opposition. And now resist the temptation to arch your low back. I want you to abdominally brace. So we harken back to the first exercise. Pull your belly button down, but think about pulling your abs down, not pushing your back down. Now, is your low back going to move closer to the floor? Yes. But you are directing that movement. You're creating that movement through your abdominal muscles.
And why is this valuable for the lower back?
Because we need to be able to sustain a seated position. And by doing this, we're challenging the hip flexor muscles to do what they do actively, which is to bring the thighs up toward the chest. And you're stabilizing your low back while you're doing it. And then when you let go and you straighten your legs out on the mat, it'll feel relieving. You'll
Yeah, and it's
notice
just like core. I feel all my core muscles are coming to the party.
exactly. And the core stabilization is the most valuable body management skill we can learn.
Okay, one more and then I'm quitting.
Well, that's great, because then what comes next is very nice.
Okay. Wow. It's punches way above its weight, this movement. It looks like nothing, but it's
And this is the sort of
impressive.
thing that you can do in bed. Like, this is the thing I like to think about, how these movements fit into our lives. How can we plant more seeds of somatic awareness and movement challenges into our daily life?
Absolutely. And I mean, this video is definitely much longer than that, but I think you have the printout, you could do the sequence in 8 to 10 minutes on your own, like just with the breath. I don't think, you know what I mean? It could be the beginning of your asana practice.
Absolutely. And it's a great way to warm up for asana practice. And believe me, you need to warm up.
Yeah.
So now you're going to need a bolster or a couple of blankets. Okay. Now, if you've got a really active low back situation, you may just want to lay down on your mat. That may be enough of a hip flexor stretch. And you're going to sit on top of your bolster and place your hands on the mat behind you, and then just ease yourself down and shimmy your bum forward so that the fullness of your pelvis and some of your low back is supported by the bolster. But your upper back, your head, shoulders, those are on the mat. So make sure, I don't want you hanging off so much, Lizzie. Shimmy more of your bum onto the bolster.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe even a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah. I want you to feel very, very supported by the bolster or the blankets if you're using blankets to reduce the size of what's to come. And now pick a leg. Think about which hip tends to bark at you, which SI joint, which hip. You're going to keep that foot on the floor. So you're going to bring your right thigh toward your chest and just interlace your fingers behind the thigh. I like them behind the thigh so that you're not jamming down into the knee joint. And now straighten out your left leg. And if you have difficulty interlacing the fingers behind that top thigh, you can always use a strap. And now put some more weight on your straightened leg, and that straightened leg, put some more weight into the big toe side of the heel.
Feels so good.
And I want you to just play with that. You may want to put more weight onto the big toe side of the heel, hold it for 3 rounds of breath, and then just relax. And then do it again. And you can feel the stretch through the front of the hip, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is so that we get into those hip flexors and stretch the abs as well. We need to strengthen abs. We also need to stretch them. Because the key to developing strength as well as mobility, so the key to developing stability and mobility is that the tissues are responsive. So we can't just stretch them all the time, and we can't just shorten them or strengthen them all the time. You have to change them when you're ready.
That makes total sense.
Yeah. But see, in asana, we tend to focus on the mobility.
Hmm. And we tend to be more mobile people that are attracted to yoga because we like things we're good at. And so I know I practiced asana for years, but I always needed more strength training. That's what I love about doing this somatic strength work with you. It's really transformed my body, I would say.
I love to hear that because I want us to be able to practice asana until we're 103, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah, it's helped
And
my posture and it's helped my, even just vanity wise, I feel like it's more, a little bit more definition, a little bit more muscles that I enjoy.
yeah, because part of enjoying embodiment is also enjoying how we look.
Mm,
That's why
mm,
aging can be so challenging for us.
yeah.
We don't recognize the beauty of aging. And it's
Hmm.
beautiful. But the thing is, also don't want to lose our muscle mass.
Yeah.
Sarcopenia sets in, honestly, in our third decade. And by the time we hit 40, we start losing muscle mass unless we actively work to cultivate it.
Right. That was lovely. Okay, what's next?
Now it's time for Stonehenge. Now, some folks will feel a little off kilter. So you could also stretch out both legs when you're on the bolster if you'd like, just so that you have a feeling of symmetry again. Personally, I'm not disturbed by
Hmm.
that asymmetry. So I don't do that, but I want it to work for you. So you may
Hmm.
find after you do that bolster supported Urdhva Hanumanasana that you then want to stretch out both legs or I think of Stonehenge, honestly, as the symmetry restoring pose.
I love that little Sanskrit toss in. Lord Hanumanasana, you know. So this is a pose. This is what mom always says is her favorite shavasana for low back stuff. So we just take the two blocks and let me see if I can lift them up so you get a better view. Just place them under your bolster. So you're raising the bolster up off the floor and then draping the knees up and over this bolster so that the backs of the knees are really supported. I often see students doing this, which is not what we want. It's not like elevating the calves and then letting the knees hang. We always really want contact here on the back of the knees. And then the heels drooping lower. Is that how you teach it too, Mary?
Yep, absolutely. This is
Okay,
my
and then
favorite.
yeah,
It's my favorite.
I am just putting an advertisement for covering yourself up. So I'm demonstrating it so you really see that. You need to be warm if you want to relax. And I have something to cover my eyes. This is just a pillow from my couch, something to cover your eyes. This is literally one of my kids' dadas. They're little loveys for sleeping, which I've confiscated and I call it the Mama Yoga Dada. And it lives here and they're not allowed to take it. Um, but I really like this because what I do with it is I tuck the pillow really in so that the chin is softened below the forehead. And then I wrap this around, I put it around the eyes and then I tuck it behind, which creates not only darkness, but a little bit of pressure around the eye sockets, which I find super soothing. And then the
That can
arms
be
come wide.
really helpful for headache.
Anything else you want to say about this physical position for about 20 minutes, Mary, while I'm demonstrating?
The other thing that I like to do, Lizzie, is I like to, if you have an extra blanket or a towel, I like to take it and swaddle it around my pelvis and
Mm,
create a blanket, a wide belt. And,
mm.
I just fold it over my pelvis. So it goes from the tops of my thighs, up over my belly. And then I just tuck the ends under my body, nice and snug. And if you have low back pain, SI joint pain, it is just this just sweetness in blanket form. because it functions
Yes.
like an external ligament.
Okay, two questions before I come out. Number one, how long should we stay here?
20 minutes.
That's a shocking number. So, like, can you give a two-sentence argument for why we would stay so long?
It takes 15 minutes for your nervous system to make the switch of being awake, alert, and ready for action to moving into a place of rest, digest, and repair.
Mm,
And so you need at least 15 minutes for that nervous system switching to occur. And then you
mhm,
want to spend at least 5 minutes abiding in that pacified nervous system.
mhm. That's super
Ideally,
clear.
ideally you spend 30 or 40 minutes.
Wow.
And
Okay,
listen,
last.
if you have pain, Lizzie, I'm sorry to interrupt, but if you experience acute or chronic pain, one of the best things that you can do for yourself is to rest.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to ask my last question. What is the relationship between low back pain and relaxation? That's not always the number one thing we think we need to do for ourselves.
Yes. Now, I'm not saying you still have to, you still got to earn it. Okay. You still need to do the work that we did in this series because you need to address the functional issues that are contributing to the pain and disarray. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
But that's not the only thing. You also need to create space for yourself to simply be and to find a body position where you do not experience pain. Because low back pain, you will carry it around like luggage.
Mm.
And so, Stonehenge, for many, many people, the vast majority, I don't believe this is an overstatement because I've seen it thousands of times. The vast majority of people are able to rest comfortably and pain-free in Stonehenge. And to find that body position is mana for
Mm.
your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health. And it gives us the opportunity to see beyond what we believe is wrong with us.
Mm. So beautiful. Okay, I'm coming reluctantly out of the pose by rolling to the side to disturb
Yeah.
myself after my 20 plus luxurious minutes here. I've set a timer. So I put my phone on airplane mode. I've
Mhm.
locked my door so no one that I live with is going to disturb me. And I'm going to come and say thank you so much, Mary Richards. What a joy it is to work with you. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your smile with us.
Oh, Lizzie, I really have so much fun with you. It's really, truly a delight. And I really consider it such a privilege and honor to pay forward these things that I've learned. And I hope that, it helps folks have an easier day.
Absolutely. Tell us where we can find you on the internet.
You can find me at yogawithmaryrichards.com. Just look up Yoga with Mary Richards. You find
Yeah,
me, you know,
yogaing in the internet.
that's all I do.
Okay, and I want to remind everyone once again to go to lassiter.yoga. This is a place you can sign up for our free newsletter, which is called the New Moon Mail. It goes out on the new moon, which is a wonderful time to reconnect with your practice. And we include a free practice every month. And you're also going to want to look at, I'm going to include the links below. You're going to want to look at Somatic Strength, which is taught by the great Mary Richards. You're going to want to look at Love Your Lower Back, also co-taught by the great Mary Richards. And Mary mentioned our Somatic Woman, which is yoga for menopause and beyond, co-taught by the great Mary Richards. You're going to want to look at all of those offerings at lassiter.yoga.
Hi, Lizzie.
Bye, Mary. Lots of love.